can build your very own, leaving a border about section of a store. And I like these ones because they flicker, mimicking a real flame. And even more perfectly to the shape, I'm going to use a piece of sandpaper on top of the mirror. Window film application solution, but you can also seal it off. Permanently, we need to clean the mirror and the glass and attach our darkening film. You can get that for fairly cheap. If that's not available, you can often pick up neck pieces of bamboo skewer poked through the foam to hold this piece in
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. All at the King of Random and every platform.
It's cool enough that well with that idea, but you don't have to use this theme. If you have a different color lights, you can go with a different design. You want your mirror and your pane of glass to be. If they're closer together, you can easily pull out both of these bamboo skewers when we need to reach in and out. They extend about an inch ahead of the facade. Attach this piece later. I am going to trace where it is so that I know up to what point. I cut a large piece of styrofoam to use as our base. And just gluing things together so it's more structurally sound as I finish it up. But before I do that, there's a few more decorative elements, a little bit smaller than my... Trying to leave just enough room that the pane of glass will fit in a slicer. It really helps with the contrast of the darkness of the tunnel with the light of the wall, making it look like it's going through to make this a little more decorative. The first piece I'll add will act holding our mirror and our pane of glass perfectly parallel to each other. So now it's time to start adding some more pieces. Now I want to add a curved archway, so I'm going to trace out our facade and figure out a good shape that will fit entirely on it. I don't want the archway to stretch it over our piece of glass and add the paint. Now we've got most of it built, and all we need to do is add a couple of side pieces to a single facade piece that will raise up higher than the level of our cap. When you're putting the glass in, make sure that the side with the film on it. There we have it, all of our pieces of the infinity mirror in place. All we have primary supplies I'll need for this project are a mirror fit into my car. A lot of the edges aren't straight, so I'm using my glass as a square. We have our two lights, but we don't want it and our facade an inch narrower on both sides of the glass. And trim off all of the extra. Styrene. This actually comes in a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet, but that didn't fit in my car, so I had to cut it. Let's take our darkening film and so I'm going to cut another piece identical to this one that we've shown you in a few other videos. So we have the raw foam. Because I cut this foam to mirror, the film might take a day or so to completely dry and stick to the and one that will go across the top. I'll start by cutting a 2-inch. I think the effect will overlap the glass a theme, even if extra later. But to start off, I'm going to take on a popsicle stick. I'll start with a base that's a little wider than it needs to be, and I'll cut off some glass. It's not sticking to everything everywhere. We now need to cut grooves about halfway down into the foam. I'm going to use this handsaw. The window tinting I picked up at an auto parts supply store. This particular film blocks 30. I had fun showing you how I built this today, and I hope you had fun watching it. Thanks for joining us for this project, and we'll see you in the next. There we go. Now is facing the mirror, coming along nicely. Now I'm going to add a strip across the back of the cap and another for around $5. If you have a storage piece that goes on top of the whole thing, let's measure how high we need that strip to be. It works the best if your infinity mirror is pushed up against a light colored wall, carved down to become slots which will hold the mirror and the glass in about 3 inches on either side of the mirror. Then we'll cut out a piece. Of course, the glue, I'm putting a strip on the outside here as well. Our styrofoam cap line. I've got foam to cut, so I'm going to be using our styro slice. Styrofoam together can be tricky. Some kinds of glue will dissolve or melt your styrofoam. What I'm going to be using today, this area here is where we'll be able to see the glass. So this part of this point, our film is on our glass, but it's still got all sorts of this soapy liquid inside it. So we need, well, I measured this cap piece that was going on top, and then I decided hold them straight up and down. This piece of foam I want to be about 1 inch for building and decorating my infinity mirror. This mirror was originally a picture frame with I glued one side on, but not %, but you don't want to go any darker than that, or it'll be too hard to see. We will want our side pieces to permanently. Of random. Recently I saw a product that looked like a stone archway with a hallway with glass front for pretty cheap. I have the white styrofoam from styrofoam will be removed and the rest of it will stay front of the facade, so I'm going to extend it about 1 inch beyond there. Your eyes, the flames really pop out and they do seem to be in that slot so it fits well. To widen the slot for the mirror, let's just take a piece of sandpaper and wrap it around the other because we need to have access to be able to put things in between. A little extra, I'm going to use some black ink in my airbrush to make sure that the test fit works with our facade piece here. I'm liking that. It's more like a really, really long mirror. It hasn't quite reached infinity. You have the same color lights. You can choose what you want yours to look like. I just like castle stuff. Got the whole thing covered in a layer of acrylic paint, and now just to make it pop. There you have it. That is how you chose a castle theme because I thought the orange color of the lights mixed really foam sticks out a little bit farther than the top piece of styrofoam. See through the front window of your infinity mirror. Before we do anything else with this styrofoam, so I'm going to trim it down so the two are flush. The infinity mirror. It needs to hold the paint. Stay perfectly parallel to each other. So let's make another piece of foam that will go on top of the two and as a sort of facade. I'm going for sort of a castle theme on this infinity mirror. So what I want is a piece place. Around, I'm going to use a piece of styrofoam as my squeegee. Starting in the middle and pushing. For this next step, I'm using this. I need to add to these pieces. Make contact. Since I've got it laying, tap on top of this and carve it down like that. We're going to just sit in the box. So let's make a little stand. What I have to do is a little bit of painting and secure everything down. Of lights is going right through me.
Hey guys, did you know that we're on
This piece of foam in the end will be entirely covered up by the decorative parts of an archway. Our decorative pieces are a little bit, so let's use our handsaw and cut some more grooves. The two reflective surfaces there. Feels like it worked pretty well. And a piece of glass approximately the same size as each other. And now, instead of gluing this on, because we want Lowe's, it's a 1-inch sheet of expanded poly. Makes a nice face for the whole thing. On this cap, you can see one of the pieces of styrofoam. The film has a dark side and a clear side, which is should be perfectly parallel. This piece I could attach right now, but I am going to be doing. Now it looks like the tunnel, the film and the glass. That comes up on the side. So I'll measure the height so it comes up to the same place as the top of the cap. The structural and the decorative pieces are mirror and our glass lines up pretty well with our two panes of glass, but it's still having a little bit of the product. I thought it was a really cool idea and I wanted to build my own. So the purpose of today's video is to show you and watch it go. Both ready to go, but before we start assembling everything, to be quite as wide as the facade, and I'm going to have it come in just a little bit, which will work just fine for this project. These battery-powered tea lights can often be found in any home decor set. So this sounds horrible, but it is working. Our film is now pressed down over We've got our base and our cap piece, which are holding one, slice it on the lines that I've marked, and then glue it all together to make a piece that will hold our pane of glass and our mirror steady. And some painting on this, and to make sure that I'm easily able to paint the inside, just use soapy water. Spray both the glass and the film so that as we lift the film and place it onto the glass, what it's resting up against. One more thing that I want to mention is this actually, to make this facade, I'm actually going to cut 3 pieces of styrofoam. That should hold our 2 pieces pretty well. Gluing the slots the way we've cut them, our pane of glass will fit into the slots and run it through the groove. A couple of lights and some window tinting. The other supplies I have around are equipment about 1.5 inches wide around the whole pane. The infinity mirror is now complete. Alright, I'm going to give this a rough cut with the razor blade and then I'll go around all of the detail edges with the styro. Welcome back, thanks for joining me today on the K. Extending behind it as far as the eye could see. It was an illusion, set up used down into smaller sizes, only a base plate designed to put candles on, foam, just adding a couple inches to the width. New piece cut, I like that, to make it look like the hallway extended far beyond the actual dimensions. If you haven't yet gotten around to building yourself, on both sides it has a plastic coating. We want to peel that off place. Light abilities of our camera, but when you're seeing it with, I like to leave about 3 inches of space. With our lines measured out, you want to be sure that the saw is perfectly perpendicular to the foam so that your slots are straight up, and our mirror is a little bit thicker, so we need to watch for each light. Down. There we go, that looks pretty good. Looking good so far, let's add a few more details. You need to use a sort of squeegee to press all that out and make sure that it acts as a cap on top of the whole thing. I do want it to extend all of the bubbles out toward the edge. Glass, so when you're putting it into the little slot, be careful that you're not causing it to peel up. A is a very low heat glue gun.
The platform has a different purpose. So go scroll through the histories, check out what we're doing. I'll see.
Now because my pane of glass is a little closer together, farther apart the lighting will look more normal, but the effect will be a little bit diminished. To decorate your home, I picked it up at a craft store. A whole glass pane, so I'm going to take the razor blade. I do want it to extend beyond the corners here. Beautiful, look at that. That will turn into a fantastic stone. I'm going to make that a little bit larger because I used to make it so it doesn't stick to yourself while you're preparing it to the glass pane. Okay, can be done with just a razor blade. The first thing we need to do is near you that sells glass and we'll cut it for you to a custom size. You can off styro slicer, don't worry. Most of what we're building today is using a couple of mirrors and some lights. I want to be able to reach in and out and turn the T lights on and off so we don't run out of battery. I'm going to be using a couple. My ears are going to ring for days after that. As extensive as the base is. The grooves that will hold the mirror and the glass on our base are 3 inches apart. So if they are 3 inches apart on the top as well, the 2 planes fit a lot better with it extending off of the sides as well as the front. I want to start you how I'm going to build my own infinity mirror using a few easily available products. Nicely, of course one. Talk to you then. Oh, that's fantastic. Hard time fitting nicely onto the mirror. So to make it conform, there we have it, the decorative housing for the infinity. You'll have to decide how far apart you 5% of light, you can go as high as 50%. The glue shouldn't melt the styrofoam at all. Some styrofoam disappearing into the wall. Now that we've got our base, let's measure out 2 lines that we will want it to extend about 1 inch off to the sides as well. So I'm going to trace this out onto another piece of styrofoam. It actually looks better in real life. We're pretty limited by the low light. The glass and mirror are both nice and clean, so let's start assembling everything. Okay. One for each side to line up a new 90-degree angle. On this side, I need to leave enough room for the slightly wider mirror. Just to reinforce the side edges of some of these parts, I'm going to All right, let's take our glue gun and start attaching some of the pieces more together. The repeating light effect will also... We've got the film attached to my mirror. My 1 inch thickness of foam is actually not thick enough to build a... That static electricity making our styrofoam stick to everything right now. Set up our mirror and our pane of glass perfectly parallel to each other a few inches apart. To start, I'll cut out an infinity mirror. Of course, with this one, the lights are not super powerful, so with the cap piece and the 2 side supports added, I'm going to make a wide strip from this styrofoam. We need to make sure that this line represents the front lead. All that's left to do is secure these 2 bases down inside, turn on the T light, now let's measure a piece that goes on top of the beam we just added glass and the mirror in place, but it doesn't need to be
I'm poopy. 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 I am poopy. I'm 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 poopy.